Good morning to you all and welcome to Penn Vicarage on this Wednesday morning. Nice to see you. Hope you're well and cheerful. Hope you feel a bit better. Now it's a bit cooler this morning. But anyway, I don't know what you have planned today, but I have a very exciting thing and I need your prayers. Friends, today I represent the diocese taking part in the, wait for this, the Ecclesiastical Insurance Interdiocesan Golf Competition. I'll be representing Lichfield Diocese with 3 other friends and hope we do well today. Anyway, as I say, I need your prayers. Looking forward to a good day. Joking aside, I'm glad it's a bit cooler and I hope you're well and good to see you this morning. And thanks for joining us for our Bible talk. Just to remind you that next week we finished doing Luke on Monday, after which me and the colleagues we're starting a series about the prophet Isaiah. So we're delving into the Old Testament starting next Tuesday. But I hope you'll enjoy that. I'm sure you'll find that really, really helpful and it's great. Friends, the context is we're in Luke's Gospel and we're in chapter 8. Jesus has stilled the storm on the lake. He's come ashore and he's had this encounter with this demon-possessed man, and he's healed him, and the pigs have run into the lake and so on. And never was there a quiet time for Jesus. Here goes. We're picking it up. Luke chapter 8, starting to read at verse 40. Now when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. Just then there came a man named Jairus, a leader of the synagogue. He fell at Jesus' feet and begged him to come to his house, for he had an only daughter, about 12 years old, who was dying. As he went, the crowds pressed in on him. There was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. Though she had spent all she had on physicians, no one could cure her. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his clothes, and immediately her hemorrhage stopped. Jesus asked, "Who touched me?" When all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowd surrounds you and press in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I noticed that power had gone out from me." Then the woman saw that she could no longer remain hidden. She came trembling, and falling down before him, she declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she'd been immediately healed. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." While he was still speaking, someone from the leader's house came to say, "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher any longer." When Jesus heard this, he said, "Do not fear. Only believe, and she will be saved." When he came to the house, he did not allow anyone to enter with him, except Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and mother, for they were all weeping and wailing for her. But he said, "Do not weep, for she is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But he took her by the hand and called out, "Child, get up." Her spirit returned, and she got up at once. He directed them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astounded, but he ordered them to tell no one what had happened. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Before I get on to the serious matters, I love the bit at the very end there, when you have Jesus heals this girl, and she's been dead and she's now alive, brings her alive, and the first thing Jesus says like this is, "Give us somewhere to eat." I guess that appeals to me. I can't imagine why. I think that's slightly humorous. But there we go. It must have been quite a scene. And what you got here are basically 2 kind of stories sandwiched in. You've got the story of Jairus and his appeal to Jesus to go and heal his sick daughter. In the middle of it, you have this woman who touches his garment en route. And I suppose I want to bring out 3 things this morning from this. I think firstly, you have 2 people here who are out of their wits with worry, and yet Jesus comes to them. And they are, on the face of it, completely different people. And yet the one thing they have in common is they're out of their wits. So you have, one's a man, Jairus, the other one is a woman. One is, and here we know his name, Jairus, in the one which is not even named. He is well, she is clearly not well. She would have been considered to be unclean because of the condition she had. She basically had an ongoing period for 12 years. She'd have been considered to be ritually unclean. He was the leader of the synagogue. He was rich. She had spent all the money on physicians. And I could go on. The point being here, you have 2 people who are incredibly different. But the one thing they have in common is, as I say, they're out of their wits. The man Jairus, he has one daughter who's 12 and she's dying. it's every parent's nightmare, isn't it? And the woman, on the other hand, she's been ill for 12 years in such a way that she'd have been poor, she'd have felt weak and ill and unclean, which meant I hadn't got friends. She would have been, considered to be religiously, on the edge as well. The whole thing is just, they couldn't have been more different. But like I said, both of them, in their own way, are out of their wits. And they both approach Jesus. And they both, ultimately, have their needs met. So I think that's the first thing to say, is that you've got two people who, as I say, are so different. And I suppose in a sense, isn't that great about the church? That God has made us all different, that we're not all the same. I would say the fact we're different is one of God's great, the variety of the people within the kingdom of God are one of God's great gifts to humankind. The fact that we're not all the same, that we can see things differently, is a wonderful gift. And I think it's great here that you've got two people, as I say, who couldn't be more different on the face of it, just having this one thing in common. They both need Jesus. And I suppose it tells us that we may be male, we may be female, we may be whatever we may be. We may be rich, we may be poor, but whoever we are, we all need Jesus. And whatever our estate may be, you might say, whatever our, whoever we may be, if we turn to Jesus, we can be found in Jesus. So I think that's the first thing to say, is that Jesus is there for everybody. I think the second thing I want to say is about faith. Luke in particular, in both cases, focuses on faith. When the woman has been healed, he says to her, your faith, stand up, your faith has made you well. And in the case of Jairus, they get to the house and they say, your daughter's already dead, don't trouble the teacher any longer. And he says, do not worry, just believe, do not doubt, just believe. And I think there's an important thing here about faith, that we are called on to have faith. And I would encourage us all, really. And when I say faith here, I don't mean just believing that there is a God, believing there's Jesus there. It talks about belief and trust. And I think here, both Jairus and the woman had to demonstrate faith. In her case, despite the fact she had been unclean, and anybody who she touched would become unclean as well, the crowd is really not the place that you want to be. And yet she has the faith enough, the trust enough, to push her way forward and to find Jesus. And in Jairus' case, he could have told Jesus to go away, don't be so insensitive or whatever. But he continues to push into Jesus, and lo, behold, his daughter is healed. So I think there's a call on here to ask God to give us more faith, to pray to God that he'd open our hearts and help us to see things his way, that we can have more faith in him. So that's the second thing, is about faith. So firstly, we've got the whole thing that you've got two people who couldn't be more different, which means there's space for everybody in the kingdom of God, both of whom, as we all do, need Jesus, and because of that, they find Jesus. So the kingdom of God is there for everybody, whoever may be. And the second thing to say is about faith. And the third thing is, again, I so often feel like a record that's got stuck. Here you got something telling us here about who Jesus is. As I say, I feel like I'm saying this every day. But you've had Jesus in the last couple of chapters demonstrating his power over the weather. You've had Jesus yesterday, and you're reading yesterday talking about his power over not just demons, but lots of demons. You've got Jesus' power over sickness. You've got Jesus' power over the Sabbath. And here in these two readings this morning, you have firstly power over not just a bit of sickness, but a lot of sickness. I mean, Luke comes to pains to tell us just how ill this woman is, that she's been ill for 12 years. So this is not just some flash in the pan. It's not a thing you get over very quickly. But despite that, Jesus has power over that. And in the case of the little girl, he's actually demonstrating his power over death. Not just as somebody being poorly. This little girl actually dies. Yet Jesus has power over death as well. So again, the point is about Jesus. The fancy word, theological word, is it's Christological. It tells us about who Jesus is. That we've already heard how Jesus has power over the weather, over sickness, over the Sabbath, over demons. Here he's demonstrating his power over not just a little bit of sickness, but a lot of sickness of this woman. And in the case of the little girl, not only is she ill, she actually dies. And yet Jesus is more powerful even than death. So, as I say, there are three things from this morning's reading. I think. Well, there's many more you could get. There's thousands, millions of sermons in here. Firstly, whoever we may be, if we turn to Jesus, we can find Jesus. Whoever, rich or poor, male, female, whatever we may be, Jesus is there for all of us. That's the first thing. The second thing is the importance of faith, about trusting in God, trusting in Jesus. And the third thing is about who Jesus is. We've already seen Jesus' power over so many other things. Here this morning we have reading over not just his power over not just a little bit of sickness, but a lot of sickness, and even his power over death itself. Hope that makes sense, my friends. God bless you. Have a lovely day, and there'll be more tomorrow.